Welcome, dairy enthusiasts, to another exciting episode of the Bovine Podcast. I'm your host, Bella, and with me today is my co-host, Douglas. We've got a fascinating story for you today about a cow that literally changed the face of Holstein breeding worldwide.
That's right, Bella. Today we're diving deep into the legacy of Comestar Laurie Sheik, a cow that some might call the cow that built an empire. We'll explore how this unassuming animal from Quebec, Canada, built a global dairy empire that's still going strong 4 decades later.
Wow, Douglas, that sounds incredible. What can our listeners expect to learn today?
We'll cover Laurie Sheik's humble beginnings, her remarkable achievements, and the lasting impact she's had on the Holstein breed. We'll also discuss how her breeding principles are still relevant in today's genomic era and what modern breeders can learn from her success.
I can't wait to get started. Let's jump right in, shall we?
Absolutely, Bella. Let's begin with the story of how Laurie Sheik came to be.
Picture this, folks. It's a chilly autumn day in 1989. The first ever Comestar sale is underway in Quebec, and the atmosphere is electric. A modest-looking black and white cow enters the ring, and nobody expects much. But when the gavel falls, jaws drop. This cow, Comestar Laurie Sheik, sells for a staggering $45,000.
That's quite a price tag for 1989. Who made such a bold investment?
It was a partnership between Comestar and the Pussemier family from Belgium. Little did they know, this purchase would reshape Holstein breeding on a global scale.
So Bella, what made Laurie Sheik so special? Why are we still talking about her today?
Oh, Douglas, where do I even begin? Laurie Sheik's accomplishments are truly mind-boggling. First off, she produced 4 millionaire bulls. That's Leader, Lee, Laros, and Outside. Can you imagine having just one bull reach that status in your breeding program?
That's incredible, Bella. 4 millionaire bulls from one cow family? That's unheard of.
But wait, there's more. Laurie Sheik herself earned 23 brood cow stars, which is near record achievement. And her daughter, Laura Black, went even further with 24 stars.
For our listeners who might not be familiar, brood cow stars are awarded based on the performance of a cow's offspring. It's a measure of how well a cow passes on her positive traits. 23 and 24 stars are exceptional numbers.
Absolutely, Douglas. It's like having a Hall of Fame player whose kid becomes an even bigger star. But Laurie Sheik's influence goes beyond just her immediate family.
How so, Bella?
Well, her genetics have spread to 51 countries worldwide. And get this, at Pussemier Holstein in Belgium, about 70% of their current herd traces back to Laurie Sheik. That's not just influence, that's a genetic takeover.
That's remarkable, Bella. It really shows the global impact of smart breeding decisions. But I'm curious about the man behind this breeding program. Who was responsible for creating Laurie Sheik?
That would be Marc Comtois, and his story is just as inspiring as Laurie Sheik's. Marc wasn't some corporate genetic wizard with fancy degrees. He was a farm kid, but the real turning point came in 1985 when he spotted a cow named Elysa Anthony Lee.
What was so special about this cow?
Well, as Marc Comtois himself once said, "I've always believed that exceptional cows build exceptional herds. When I saw Elysa Anthony Lee, I recognized a cow that could be the foundation for something special, but even I couldn't have predicted just how special her daughter would become."
And that daughter was Laurie Sheik, born in December 1986.
Exactly, Douglas. Laurie Sheik was the result of a breeding decision that broke all the rules.
How so, Bella?
Well, you might think Laurie Sheik came from the trendiest, most fashionable genetics of her day. But that wasn't the case at all. Her sire, Puget-Sound Sheik, wasn't a household name. He was born in 1972 and classified Very Good 85.
For our listeners, a classification of Very Good 85 is respectable, but not exceptional. It's on a scale where excellent is the highest, followed by very good, good plus, good, and fair.
Right, Douglas. And while Laurie Sheik's dam, Elysa Anthony Leia, was exceptional with an excellent classification in 15 brood stars, this pairing represented Marc's independent thinking rather than following the crowd.
So Marc wasn't breeding to what was popular. He was breeding what he believed would work.
Exactly. And boy, did it work. This unconventional pairing created a genetic perfect storm that would redefine what was possible in Holstein breeding.
Now, Bella, I understand that Laurie Sheik had some pretty remarkable daughters. Can you tell us about them?
Absolutely, Douglas. While Laurie Sheik had 18 very good daughters, which is impressive in itself, 3 in particular stand out. All 3 were sired by Tomar Blackstar and became the genetic highways that spread Laurie Sheik's influence globally.
Who were these daughters, and what made them so special?
First, we have Laura Black, classified very good 87 with 24 brood stars. She gave us the bulls Lee and Laros, which combined production punch with dairy strength that commercial farmers loved.
That's an impressive combination. Strong production with good conformation is what every dairy farmer dreams of.
Next, we have L or Black, also very good 87 but with 16 brood stars. She produced Outside, a bull that completely transformed how we think about udders in modern Holsteins.
For our listeners who might not know, before Outside, the Holstein breed struggled with udders that couldn't hold up through multiple lactations. Outside's daughters changed that forever, with high, wide rear udders and exceptional center support.
Exactly, Douglas. And finally, we have Lausan Black, very good 87 with 23 brood stars. She gave us Stormatic, creating a line that uniquely excels in both genomic rankings and show rings.
That's quite a feat, Bella. Usually, we see animals that excel either in genomics or in the show ring, but rarely both.
As a friend of mine who judges major shows likes to say, they look as good as they test, and they test as good as they look. That's rare.
Now, Bella, I understand there's an interesting international aspect to this story. Can you tell us about the Belgian connection?
Oh, absolutely, Douglas. This is one of my favorite parts of the Laurie Sheik story. When the Pussemier family from Belgium spotted Laurie Sheik's potential at that 1989 sale, they faced a major roadblock. Belgian regulations wouldn't let them import live cattle from Canada.
So, how did they overcome this challenge?
They got creative, Douglas. They bought partial ownership of Laurie Sheik herself and imported her embryos instead. Talk about thinking outside the box.
That's quite innovative. How did this decision pan out for them?
It triggered what became known as Black Star Mania at Pussemier Holstein. They crossed Laurie Sheik daughters with Tomar Blackstar and struck genetic gold. One standout offspring was Black Lord de Pussemier, who produced over 100,000 kilograms of milk in her lifetime.
For our American listeners, that's over 220,000 pounds of milk. That's an exceptional lifetime production.
Indeed, Douglas. And the impact of this decision is still felt today. Jonas Pussemier, who now runs the operation his parents started, says that about 70% of their current herd traces back to Laurie Sheik.
That's incredible, Bella. It really shows how one smart purchase can completely transform a herd's future.
Absolutely, Douglas. And it's not just about the numbers. The Laurie Sheik lineage has shown remarkable consistency and adaptability across generations.
Can you elaborate on that, Bella?
Of course. When we track key metrics across generations, we see that while most families show regression toward breed average over time, the Laurie Sheik line has maintained, and often improved upon, elite performance across nearly 4 decades.
That's fascinating. Can you give us some specific examples?
Certainly. Let's look at the maternal line classification progression. We start with Elysa Anthony Lee, Laurie Sheik's dam, who was excellent 15-star. Then Laurie Sheik herself was very good 88 with 23 stars. Her 3 key Black Star daughters were all very good 87. And if we jump to a modern descendant, La Madonna, she's excellent 94 with 21 stars.
For our listeners, that's an exceptional classification score. Excellent 94 is near the top of the scale.
Exactly, Douglas. And it's not just about classification. The family has maintained superiority through different eras of genetic evaluation, from the classification-focused 1980s through the production index era of the 1990s, the balanced LPI-TPI approach of the 2000s, and into today's genomic evaluation systems.
That's remarkable adaptability, Bella. It really speaks to the fundamental quality of these genetics.
Absolutely, Douglas. And it's not just in traditional dairy setups. Laurie Sheik's descendants are excelling in modern, high-tech environments too.
How so, Bella?
Well, Comestar itself has embraced the future, transitioning to robotic milking in 2020 with 7 Delaval V300 robots. Laurie Sheik's descendants are adapting beautifully to being milked by robots instead of human hands.
That's a great point, Bella. It shows that these genetics aren't just about history. They're relevant to the future of dairy farming, too.
Now, Douglas, I know you've done some research on how Laurie Sheik's breeding principles can be applied in today's genomic era. Can you share some insights with our listeners?
Absolutely, Bella. You might wonder if breeding lessons from the 1980s still apply in our genomic selection era. They absolutely do, maybe now more than ever.
That's interesting, Douglas. How so?
Well, Bella, Laurie Sheik's success offers a framework that works beautifully alongside modern genomic tools. There are a few key principles that today's breeders can apply.
I'm all ears, Douglas. What are these principles?
First, look beyond the numbers for maternal strength. While genomic indexes give us incredible prediction power, they don't tell the whole story of maternal potential. When evaluating potential brood cows, pay special attention to family consistency across generations, balanced trait profiles, and cross-system performance.
Can you break that down a bit more, Douglas?
Sure, Bella. By family consistency, I mean looking for maternal lines that show stable transmission of key traits across generations, just like we saw with Laurie Sheik's family. For balanced trait profiles, prioritize females with well-rounded attributes over those that excel in just one area. And by cross-system performance, look for families that maintain excellence regardless of how they're measured: classification, production indexes, or genomics.
I see. So it's about looking at the bigger picture, not just chasing the highest numbers.
Exactly, Bella. In fact, I have a practical tip for our listeners. Create a maternal scorecard that tracks genetic transmission strength across 3 generations of any potential foundation female. A truly prepotent maternal line will show consistency in trait expression regardless of what sires were used.
That's a great tip, Douglas. Are there any real-world examples of farms successfully applying these principles today?
Absolutely, Bella. Pussemier Holstein in Belgium is a perfect example. They've masterfully blended traditional maternal evaluation with modern genomic tools. While they use genomic testing, they value good mothering ability more than just high production numbers. They select for traits and bloodlines proven to work rather than relying on a single bull or chasing the highest genomic indexes.
That's fascinating, Douglas. Do we know what specific bulls they're using in their program?
According to the Bullvines coverage, Chief and Lambda are currently their top sires. Their breeding goals integrate both milk production excellence and show competition success. Exactly the kind of balanced approach that made the Laurie Sheik line so successful.
So the key takeaway is that genomics are powerful tools, but they work best when paired with time-tested maternal selection principles.
Exactly, Bella. It's about combining the best of both worlds, cutting-edge technology with proven breeding philosophy.
Now, Douglas, as we wrap up our discussion, what do you think are the key lessons that today's breeders can learn from the Laurie Sheik phenomenon?
That's a great question, Bella. I think there are 4 main takeaways. First, focus on females, not just fancy bulls. Marc Comtois built a dynasty by identifying exceptional brood cows rather than chasing the hottest sires. The maternal side matters a lot. Second, sometimes your best partners are oceans away. The Belgium connection supercharged Laurie Sheik's impact. Don't be afraid to look globally for collaboration. Third, breed for adaptability, not trends. Laurie Sheik's family has thrived through multiple evaluation systems and management styles. That's more valuable than being temporarily hot under one system. And finally, genetic transmission is everything. Those 23 brood cow stars represent extraordinary prepotency. Look for animals that reliably pass their traits to the next generation, not just ones that look good themselves.
Those are excellent points, Douglas. It really emphasizes the importance of long-term thinking in breeding programs.
Absolutely, Bella. In our industry's relentless pursuit of the next big thing, maybe that's the most valuable lesson Laurie Sheik offers. True genetic excellence isn't measured in momentary spotlight, but in generational impact.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of today.
That's all for this week's episode of the Bullvine Podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review, and join us next time for the Bullvine Podcast.